On this episode of the Florida Files, we will be uncovering one of Florida's hidden gems. Today we sail to the Dry Tortugas to uncover the history of the iconic Fort Jefferson. The Dry Tortugas is a small group of islands about 70 miles west of Key West, Florida, known for their remote location and rich marine life. Named by Spanish explorer Ponce de Leon in 1513, with Tortugas referring to the large number of sea turtles in the area, and dry indicating the lack of fresh water. In the mid-1800s, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers decided to construct a fort on the Dry Tortugas to protect shipping lanes connecting the Gulf to the Straits of Florida, a key maritime route. When it was near completion, Fort Jefferson would become the largest brick masonry structure in the Western Hemisphere. Despite being unfinished, the sheer size and scale of the fort are remarkable, making it one of the most ambitious coastal defense projects in U.S. history. Let's learn more about the fascinating tale of Fort Jefferson and the Dry Tortugas. Construction crews faced enormous challenges from the start. The remote coral atoll lacked fresh water and any natural building materials. Engineers had to rely entirely on shipments from the mainland. The Army imported bricks, limestone, and lumber from places as far as Maine, Pensacola, and New Orleans, transporting materials via schooners. Workers initially built the foundation on coral and sand, using wooden pilings and crushed coral as a base to support the fort's massive weight. Designed as a hexagonal fortress, the fort's walls reached 50 feet high and were up to 8 feet thick, using over 16 million bricks, making it the largest brick masonry structure in the Western Hemisphere. It featured 6 massive bastions designed to hold 420 cannons, with space for 1,500 troops inside. An advanced cistern system was built to collect rainwater, but over time, saltwater contamination rendered it ineffective. Inside, the fort would be a self-sufficient city. There would be storehouses, barracks, and even a hospital. Totten's design was ambitious. By the 1860s, the fort was still unfinished, but the outbreak of the Civil War made it an important Union outpost. When Florida seceded from the Union in January 1861, Union forces quickly secured Fort Jefferson to prevent it from falling into Confederate hands. Fort Jefferson became an essential base for the Union Navy's blockade of Confederate supply routes under the Anaconda Plan. Its deep-water anchorage allowed Union ships to refuel and resupply while enforcing the blockade of southern ports. At its peak, the fort housed over 1,000 Union soldiers, although conditions were harsh due to extreme heat, disease, and limited fresh water. During the war, the fort was also used as a military prison, housing Union deserters, Confederate prisoners of war, and criminals. The most famous prisoner was Dr. Samuel Mudd, the physician who treated John Wilkes Booth after the assassination of President Abraham Lincoln. Mudd was sentenced to life in prison for his role in the conspiracy. Upon arrival, inmates were assigned to cramped, sweltering barracks inside the fort, where they slept on wooden bunks or the ground. Meals were scarce and bland, usually consisting of salted fish, hardtack, and occasionally cornmeal. The entire fort relied upon rainwater, which would often become contaminated by seawater. Many prisoners suffered from malnutrition and scurvy due to the lack of fresh fruits and vegetables. The fort's overcrowded and unsanitary conditions led to the rapid spread of disease, including dysentery, malaria, and yellow fever. Yet, amidst the suffering, there were stories of resilience. Dr. Samuel Mudd in particular cared for hundreds of sick prisoners and guards alike during a yellow fever outbreak in 1867. Despite being a prisoner himself, Mudd worked tirelessly treating soldiers and fellow inmates, providing medical care under primitive and dangerous conditions. In recognition of his service, the remaining soldiers and officers signed a petition requesting his pardon, which was granted by President Johnson in 1869. The Civil War ended in 1865 as Fort Jefferson's importance diminished. Although the Army continued to use Fort Jefferson for coastal defense, advances in military technology, such as rifled artillery, made brick fortifications obsolete. The fort's isolated location, outbreaks of tropical disease, and lack of fresh water also made it impractical to maintain. The government saw little reason to invest in it. The garrison was reduced. The once bustling fortress became a shadow of its former self. The Army abandoned Fort Jefferson in 1874, though it was occasionally used as a coaling station for naval ships. By the late 19th century, it had been largely deactivated as a military installation. In 1908, the fort was declared a national wildlife refuge to protect nesting birds. By 1935, President Franklin Roosevelt designated a national monument. Workers from the Civilian Conservation Corps, a New Deal program, were sent to the Dry Tortugas to restore parts of the deteriorating structure and improve visitor access. When the United States entered World War II, Fort Jefferson was temporarily reactivated. The fortress would act as an outpost for the U.S. Coast Guard. A small detachment manned the fort to monitor ship movements off the coast of Florida. Though not a major base, the fort had limited radar and communication installations for maritime defense. It would serve as a lookout station for German submarines that prowled off the coast of Florida. After World War II, the fort once again decommissioned. In the 1960s and 1970s, scientists and conservationists began conducting marine research in the waters surrounding Fort Jefferson. Researchers recognized the area's coral reef ecosystems as among the most pristine in North America. In 1992, Fort Jefferson and its surrounding islands officially became Dry Tortugas National Park, ensuring its long-term protection and increasing tourism. In recent years, the National Park Service has worked to stabilize deteriorating bricks, repair collapsed walls, and reinforce the fort's infrastructure to prevent further damage from saltwater erosion. Scientists have used the park to monitor coral health, study fish populations, and track environmental changes caused by climate change and human activity. Due to its remote location, access to Fort Jefferson is restricted to seaplanes, private boats, and the Yankee Freedom 3 ferry from Key West. Fort Jefferson stands as a testament to American military ambition, resilience, and the evolving role of historic preservation. Originally built to monitor shipping lanes, the fortress never saw battle, but instead became a symbol of shifting priorities, from coastal defense to a military prison, and eventually a protected national landmark. Today, as part of Dry Tortugas National Park, Fort Jefferson continues to captivate visitors with its massive brick walls, Civil War history, and surrounding marine biodiversity. The park's ongoing conservation efforts ensure that both the fort and its fragile ecosystem remain intact for future generations. Despite the challenges of erosion, rising sea levels, and remote accessibility, Fort Jefferson's legacy endures. It serves as a bridge between history and nature, war and peace, past and future, making it one of the most fascinating and historically significant sites in Florida. Thank you for watching this episode of the Florida Files. Please like and subscribe to our channel to hear more tales about Florida's interesting and sometimes bizarre history.